Hello, good afternoon, evening, whatever you're having yourself. Maybe good night if you're a night owl stalking YouTube late at night. Welcome. You're my demographic, I suppose. People who can't sleep. This should work. Anyway, my name's Bluebeard, or at least I am on this thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favourite things. I'm hoping to start a new playlisty thing, whatever you want to call it. Series. Yeah, series. Let's call it a series. A new series on Football Manager, where basically I'm putting together a gigantic Irish pyramid. I've been doing this on and off for years. I think the first time I started doing it properly was the first time I had the internet and Football Manager, which would have been, I think, Football Manager 2012. So I started doing it then, created something like a 7 or 6 tier Ireland league, featuring loads of teams, and it was really my introduction to trying to create a league, to develop it beyond. I love football in Ireland, but unfortunately on Football Manager and in real life there's no pyramid. You've got 2 leagues, and at that time I think it was one of those annoying years when like there was 8 teams in the first tier and 12 in the top tier, and nobody thought, maybe we could make them both 10. Well, they've thought about that since, and so now that's the case. But either way, what I want to talk about or look at is this year. Normally every year I spend like about a month and I just don't play the game at all. I never play it. What I'm doing all the time is I'm just tweaking and tinkering with developing this project, this gigantic Irish league. Different years I've looked into doing other things. One time I wanted to create... what was it I wanted to create? I wanted to create the Western Arab nations as a particular continent unto themselves, because they kind of were and they kind of are, so that you've got Morocco and Iran being probably the dominant teams, with Egypt and Saudi Arabia looping in there as well. But that didn't work out. But this is sort of like a pet project of mine. Normally I get the game when it comes out cheap. I splashed out this year, and normally I think the month of March or April or May or sometime along then is just me banging on, looking at this and spending far too much time. I'm going to do like a 10 episode series or something like that, 8 episodes. We'll see how many it ends up being, which is going to be sporadic because this takes time, and I'm also trying to do other things like live in a foreign country and mad stuff like that. But I'm planning on developing the league, and then at the end of developing it on the editor, for those of you who are interested, I'll probably follow a series of whatever team I'm managing in Ireland. I always try to go for Duncannon because that's where my mother's from, which is strange, but that's me. And I'll follow that up, and you can watch on and be amused or be disgusted or whatever you fancy doing. I do know that when I started doing this, there wasn't really an awful lot of, or I couldn't find a lot of advice on how to go about doing things. So you're going to see me do this badly, do this wrong, and then maybe do it right or figure out what I've done wrong. You'll probably not have to watch me spending hours of putting in details like, Tipperary towns, third colours, if I bother to do the third colours and stuff like that. But I am going to have a link to this at the end of the video. I'll put up a page with lists of the links and hopefully make them interactive, because I know YouTube can do crazy stuff like that. And as well as that, because I'm going to have a big list, and I will welcome ideas and suggestions. Please, if you have an idea for a club that should exist or a town that's missing from Football Manager, shout it out. I'll add it in, or I'll try to add it in, or I might go, wow, that's a really dumb name for a club. Why do you think that I want to have a league that involves Dick Muncher's Rovers? Because that doesn't make any sense. Dick Muncher's United, maybe. Dick Muncher's Town. Dick Muncher's Rovers is a stupid name. Why did you think that? Anyway, for those of you who are interested, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where you can find the editor, because you can do this. This is actually really easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So first things first, I'm going to show you where it can be found. So now, through the magic of some picture caption thingy for a moment, we will go away, and as though by magic we will be back to see the actual place where it can go. So when you go onto Steam, you know, the usual store place, you've got your library with all your games. You don't need to know what games I play. They're very boring and they're very dull and they're very old man games. Like I play Watching Time Go By 2, the paint drying and stuff like that. Instead of clicking into your library, just hover over it. You know, well, you can hover over these things. Isn't it magical what we can do with computers now? And click on Tools. Now on Tools, you'll get a load of games that you've never heard of, and the SDs like Sid Meier's Civilization. That's one I have heard of and I have got, and they'll get some of these things. There's loads of stuff that comes up for games you won't have. And then if you have a Football Manager fan like I am, you might see one or two of these. There's the Resource Archiver, which basically its purpose is to give you all those little hints and tips. You know, when you click and it just scrolls when you're waiting on it to catch up with the game, it'll say, you know, using tall players is likely to score you more goals from headers than not. They're a lot better than that, but that's what those are all a list of. You can install that if you want. Personally, I've installed the editor because that's what we're going to be doing. So let's jump straight back to the editor. Okay, here we are back at the editor. Sorry for that delay. It takes me a little bit of time to get these things sorted out, and my technological skills are not great, which is why this is so easy. If I can do it, honestly, anybody can do it. So let's click into the editor proper, and you can see there the various things. I've actually been doing a little bit of editing already. You'll probably, if you're at the beginning of the season, this, by the way, seems to work for all of them so far. I've not come across a Football Manager where there's a massive difference in how this is run. You'll want to load the database for whichever version you're working on. If this is after the March update, then when you load database, you'll you'll get whatever you need. And then if you're like me, I've been working on something already, so I've loaded the editor data already. So we're going to start in Ireland. So let's load the database just to clear everything. I'm going to give you an idea. I've been doing some work on it already, so I don't want you to basically feel, oh, he's done everything already. How do I go about doing this? Yeah, I'm not going to be that jerk today. Another day I will. I'm going to be doing a lot of this work in the background when you're not, while you're sleeping, presumably, depending on where you go to sleep. And the first thing I'm going to want to do, you can read all these stuff, but database changes, test competitions. We're going to be going to, what are we going to be doing? You can see all the, remove bans, randomized kits. All these different things, they're here. You can create your own challenges. There's a whole settings thing. I never look at these things. It's dreadful, but I really never do, because generally I go straight to goal. What I want to do is I want to create a new database with in Ireland. So what do I need to do? Rules. Add nation rules. I'm going to create it in Ireland, current nation. You can create this wherever you want. And I mean, it's really surprisingly easy. So create new competitions and rules, add lower divisions and cups to existing structure. I'm going to be creating new competitions and rules because I want to make a whole new world. Ireland's league tends to take place in the spring. During the summer. So we'll, hang on, let me check this again. The season start, I normally put it on Valentine's Day. Call me an old romantic. You'd be wrong, but you could call me an old romantic. So I tend to keep it the weekend around there. So I'll normally put it the 14th. And I'm going to start it in 2019. So similarly, we don't want the season to end after 3 months. I normally put it the end of November. Give them a good 2.5 months off the officials, really. Season update day, I normally do the 1st of January. So like a new broom, everything changes. And then finish. Simple as that. Then we get into the difficult thing. Because right now, we have no competitions to test. Create test. There must be at least one division in this nation. Yikes. So I'm going to do some of that stuff next day on the when I'm giving a proper intro to it. But I want to give you a sort of a peep around. Honestly, even if you're not particularly interested in creating a league, it's always interesting to go in and have a poke around. So let's, for example, look at cities. Add condition. Now, this is where it gets tricky for Ireland, because we're not Ireland. We are Ireland. We are not an Ireland. So the nation is Ireland. Pardon me, the excitement of watching me type as I try to look around a big, ignorant microphone. So it says there's 135 cities in Ireland, or towns. So we've got Adamstown in rural Wexford, which for some reason is listed, but I don't know why. We've got Duncannon. Where are you? A town, if you double click on it, a town of under 1,000 people. Honestly, the actual town of Duncannon, under 200 people. But it's got its longitude and latitude right. English coastal, we can change that to say Irish coastal if we want, but we won't worry about that. To get back out of it, I just click database again, but you'll notice that Duncannon's there anytime I want to look at it. It's only really, really recently that they added New Ross, which is a town of 5,000 or 5 to 6,000. You can see it's just broad ranges. If we wanted to make New Ross a town of 10 to 20 million, we could do that. Why? I don't know. We can set the language for the town if we want. So if we wanted it to be Guatemalan Spanish, I don't know if they've got a distinction. Add condition name. Contains. Contains is very useful, but be careful, especially when it comes to Ireland. No, nothing called nothing that contains the word. If we put in GU, we've got Portuguese or Guarani. If we wanted the language of New Ross to be Guarani, so it is. That's going to make it very hard for other visitors. Going back to the database, so you can see all these different towns. Of course, the big monster has to be Dublin. Dublin is about 1.6 million people as is. Look at that, 1.1 million to 2.5 million. Attraction 20. This is an important thing to note. The attraction level tells you exactly how popular a place is. I'm just pulling up a little bit so you can see at the very bottom it says attraction 0 to 20. So that's a maximum. If you open this out fully, and I'm not going to do that, you will see, let me see, maybe it's peeping up. Yes, it is peeping up. You can see the attraction figure there as being 0 to 20. That'll tell you the sort of the parameters of anything you're going to do when you go to change it. Going back to database, we can look at clubs. There's so much information under clubs. Add condition name, we'll just call it Waterford. My favourite club back in Ireland or anywhere. And as you can see, name contains Waterford. So we've got Compton from, probably Waterford Compton from Barbados, and all these other clubs. We've got all these old Waterfords, like there's a couple of extinct Waterfords. Waterford 1930 to 1982. Waterford United under 18s. They don't exist anymore at Waterford United. Waterford United, and just simply the modern version, Waterford. And it gives you tons of stuff you can do. You can look at the ownership, decide reserve teams, what kind of reserve teams there are. You can link off to the stadium there. Some more stuff on the stadium. Let me close that. Finances, competition, supporter profiles. They tend to be generically 10 here. Kits and colours I like, because that's a place where I can mess about and fiddle. You can see two-tone blue on the home. The away is not white. That will have to be changed because it is mad, garish yellow. Except that's not the right place to do it. Look at what I did. I made a boo-boo. So what am I going to do there? I'm going to go down to changes here at the bottom. And I'll click that and I'll have remove. Remove the change. Problem gone. Isn't that cool and handy? No, I need to click on side stripes. I need to change foreground to blue. None of those blues appeal to me. So I'm going to go and mess about. That's a richer, pleasanter blue. Actually, here's the easy way. If I click, ooh, that's an ugly blue too. I don't like those blues. They're the wrong blues for the blues. Anyway, we'll click back, get that pleasanter blue, richer, error, okay, blah, blah, blah. So I can't make any changes now that I've made the error before. But we can worry about that another day. You can change the kind of shirt to all these different kind of things. This is the shirt Waterford have currently is in the way, but we can't look at that because I made a mistake. Boo. Records, history, relationships. You can create rivals for local, historic, or competitive reasons. Favoured people. No favoured people for Waterford. Disliked people. There are quite a few disliked people in Waterford. Legends and icons. That's disappointing. Generally, and this is not a knock to Football Manager, there are so many leagues in Football Manager, but generally the Irish teams don't get as much attention paid them as a lot of, say, the bigger leagues, because I'm guessing not nearly as many people follow the Irish leagues. Let's add condition. We're going to look at derbies. Which are there any derbies in Ireland? So you can see all these details that you can look up by, but it's very hard to find them easily. Name would be easy. Let's try to see if they've got the Munster Derby. Yep, the Munster Derby, Waterford and Cork. Now you might be saying, Waterford and Cork, the Munster Derby, they're not the same city. No, they're about 70 miles away from each other probably, but it's got a world reputation of 55 out of 200, which isn't bad. National reputation out of 110 out of 200, which is pretty big. It should be bigger, to be honest, in my opinion. There's loads of things. One of my favourite things is injuries. I'll talk about that the next day. Languages, so on and so forth. Nations, people, state. You can change so many things. It is super exciting. I will be adding stadiums. I won't be adding nations. You can't add a nation, but you can tinker with it. Like, for example, add condition, name. Name contains Ireland. So observe. You know the way that there's one island called Ireland? There are 3 Irelands here. This is the Ireland that predates separation in 1922. And then we've got Northern Ireland and the south of Ireland. So reputation doesn't differ much. As you can see, reputation in this case is out of, I don't know. We'll figure that out in due course. Attendance, 1,750 as opposed to 35,000. I suppose it makes some sense. We've got a bigger stadium. Maximum attendance is bigger in Northern Ireland. In the south at 60,000. We've gotten up to 80, I think, when we were in Croke Park, and minimum is about 18,000. There's all these different things that you can be doing and looking at, but this is just a bare hint and an introduction to the whole thing. So, my goal is I'm going to start talking about a few different things on this. The next day, I'm going to introduce my plan, what I aim to do. Ireland at the moment has 2 tiers and dozens, if not hundreds, of other leagues throughout. Like the Wexford and District League has something like 9 divisions, but it goes down as far as Division 5. But there's a Division 1, a Premier Division, a Division 1A, a Division 1B, loads of stuff like that. I'm going to be kind of playing fairly fast and loose with the actual divisions and creating my own world. Because, why not? So the next day I'm going to talk about my overall plan. I'll do some basic editing and exploring then. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments down below. But otherwise, if you fancy it, I'm doing a YouTube thing on managing Inter-Turku in Finland, because for the first time in my life, I'm living here. I'm here for 6 months, and I'll be talking about both Inter-Turku, football in Finland, and living in Finland and what Finland's like. So it's kind of like a travelogue meets football log meets Football Manager thingy meets terrible manager failing desperately because he doesn't normally manage in the top divisions. Spoiler. Other than that, like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And tell me what you're doing. I'd love to hear from other managers, especially those who like to create leagues, and also those who, like me, like to manage in the lower leagues. Special shout out, as always, to Eric, maybe to Harry as well. You might be interested in this one, Harry. And for the rest of you, good night. I'll talk to you soon.